next speaker, Dr. Rita Ryan, who graduated from Johns Hopkins magna cum laude, and she did her medical school and pediatric residency at SUNY. And she took a fellowship in neonatology at Cincinnati Children's, where she came across Dr. Warner, joined the faculty at Rochester, and she was the chair of ONTPD, which is in charge of all the training programs for fellows. She was division chief at Buffalo and chair of pediatrics at Charleston, South Carolina, is now back in the Great Lakes area at Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital and Case Western, and her research interests are lung development and chronic disease of the newborn. So welcome, Dr. Rita Ryan.
Thanks everybody for having me, and I am embarrassed to follow Usha because my wall behind me is completely blank and she has these beautiful art things. It's terrible. I just want to say, like the Academy Awards, I just feel honored to be on this panel with all these great other nominees or the other women on this panel. It's really a very, very nice honor for you guys to ask me. So I'm going to try to go through these questions, and I'm not going to hit every one, but I'm going to try to hit the ones I think I have the most, to say about, I guess. So the biggest positive for me in leadership is the belief that what I do will help make care for babies better, both locally and beyond. And that includes also by helping to train future pediatricians and neonatologists. The biggest positive for me personally, and I think Barb and some other people alluded to this as well, is helping those people who are more junior to me, reaching their highest star. That's the fun part that gives us the biggest satisfaction as a leader. The biggest difficulty for women to overcome probably, and somebody else alluded to this as well, is that if you're assertive as a man, you're assertive. If you're assertive as a woman, you're aggressive. And that is, that is just hard to understand sometimes. And some people, both men and women, will be threatened by your success. And that was a very sad realization for me. Wouldn't they all want you to be successful? Because if you're successful, the whole institution will be successful? No, not always. One thing that I like to tell people, it looks like everybody on this panel just did all of this so easily. I want you all to know I didn't get into medical school until June of my senior year. Other people were getting in November and stuff. I didn't get into my first choice for residency. I did get my first division chief and my first chair position with some ease, I would say. My chair position, interestingly, I hadn't even looked at another chair. A former fellow from Rochester had actually put my name in his chair. And, that kind of fell into my lap. I don't know, Robin, if you remember, I probably never thanked you for helping me to get a great package and do everything. She was a huge help, actually. But after that, I was a chair for 5 years, and this glass, what did you call it, Usha, glass cliff thing, kind of sounded very vaguely familiar to me because I was non-renewed after 5 years, which, by the way, everybody should know this happens with some regularity. And when I tried to get a second chair position, I had a really hard time, and I still don't have one yet. I'm not done yet, maybe, but so everything doesn't come so easily to all of us. It just looks easy on the outside, but we all have had our share of our struggles and things that didn't go so smoothly. So I think it's fair that everybody should know that. What I wish I had done differently, if I had known how things would have ended up for me, I probably should have gotten an MD, PhD. I could have done more research training after my fellowship. I was offered a Proctor Scholarship, they call it, in Cincinnati after my fellowship. But if I had done that, then I wouldn't have moved to Rochester and met my husband, and I wouldn't have my 3 kids, and my whole life would be different. So I thought about it later to get a PhD in biostatistics because I am one of those math geeky kind of people, but the timing was never right. And I don't really like looking back. I really only like to look forward. So we're not going to talk about that anymore. My most important advice for you, pick a good partner or spouse, someone who really supports your dreams and desires. Like many of the people who preceded me, their spouses were in medicine or in academia. My husband was not. So I felt very fortunate compared to a lot of other women because when my kid was sick and had to stay home from school, my husband could stay home. And so it really helped me so much to have that. That was just the luck of the draw. I didn't know that that's how it was going to end up, but that is how it ended up. Qualities to maintain your leadership position for any leader, and I think Usha kind of alluded to this, you have to get along and support your boss or bosses. Be careful what you say publicly and maybe even privately. But for yourself to be able to sleep at night, you have to be true to your own beliefs and your own conscience. Depending on your bosses and institutions, you will likely have to fight hard to maintain your personal integrity. I still have mine. Sometimes I think it's kind of a miracle. They can't make you do things. They think they can, but you have to be strong. I'll give you a concrete example, asking you to fire somebody who you don't think should be fired. That has happened to me more than once in a leadership position. Needless to say, I did not follow through on what they asked. My advice for my younger self or for your younger selves, if you're a lab-based research person, as I am, stay in the lab as long as you can. Keep your hands in your work as long as you can. If you're not, or even if you are, do your own statistics. So you're not dependent on somebody else on PAS abstract deadline day when one of your data points changes and it's 11:45 p.m. Now, come on, ladies, we've all been there. I don't do the 11:45 p.m. thing anymore, but we've all done it at least once. I know you all have. That craziness is not healthy. My additional advice to you, and this may not be that popular with some of the people in the group here, but not all men are our enemies. Men can be great mentors. I'm not against men. I sometimes feel a lot of anger from women against men, from some women. And I just don't think it's productive to spend a lot of time on that. I think what WIN has done is great, which is opening the discussion and certainly getting the data that they've been able to help provide has been fantastic. But as a leader, you're going to have men in your own division or in your own department, and you're going to have to advocate for them as well. So just kind of be thoughtful about that. Some additional advice, don't burn any bridges because you're liable to need them at some point. And other additional advice, leadership requires mental toughness to remain true to your own tenets or beliefs. It can be very isolating. I've talked to a lot of people, women in leadership position, and maybe it's true for men as well, but it can be very isolating. Your support and strength will come from other women leader neonatologists and scientists nationally. And for me, some of those people are men as well. But I know there's a cadre, all the people on this panel, I could call them tomorrow. If I needed help from them, they would talk to me and they would help me. When I had some personal crises over the years, I'd go to a national meeting and there were my strength. Renata knows about that. Becky Simmons, other people, when a particular instance of something happens, those are the people that were my friends and who helped me. So you're going to have that cadre of folks, whether it's your scientific colleagues or leadership colleagues or neonatology national people, the Scottsdale meeting people group, the PAS people, whoever, those are going to be your support and your strength. And when you call them and when they call you, you're going to answer. And when you call them, they're going to answer. And as an aside, for all of you in the audience, especially the people who are not leaders yet, or maybe just small area leaders, your current leaders, your division chiefs, your program directors, your medical directors, your department chairs, they also need support. We all need support. Even the most accomplished person on this phone call, on this teleconference, whatever, a kind word from you can really make a difference for that person that day. So I encourage you, I'm not saying to suck up to people. I don't believe in that. But if you really feel that somebody did something well or made a good point, say it out loud. That will really mean something to them because we all need support every day. One of my proudest moments, so after getting non-renewed as chair, it was kind of a hard time. I reached out to this national recruiter person who I know. He's a person who does a lot of academic pediatric recruitment. And I had known him for probably about 2 decades, probably about 20 years. And I was just trying to get a feel for was my national reputation ruined now? Or, what was the word on the street? And I was trying to, get a feel for this. And he said, no, you have a great national reputation. And I was waiting to hear what he was going to say next. And he took a breath in and I thought, he's going to say, oh, people think you're like the best neonatal lung biologist in the world. And you know, the fellows all love your lectures and all these delusions of grandeur, I guess, ideas that I had or whatever. He didn't say anything like that. What he said was, everyone knows you're willing to help anybody. You will help anybody. And at the time, I was a little deflated at that moment, you know, after expecting, you know, this great talk. But I've kind of embraced this over time. I have this mantra that kindness is not the same as weakness. I do believe in inherent kindness. And actually, those of you who have worked for me know I'm actually not that nice, but I do believe in kindness, and it is not a weakness. I've just decided, if that's what my mantra is going to be, or that's what people think about me, that I'm willing to help anybody, that's actually a good thing. Kindness is actually a good thing. These are not bad qualities to have. So the last thing I want to bring up is somebody mentioned the ONTPD chair thing. We had this session about leadership, of this leadership session, and these guys from AAP came, they had like a big flip pad, and they're flipping these pages, and they asked everybody, what are the qualities that you think are important in a good leader? And you can imagine what people were answering, raising their hand: intelligence, a sense of humor, work ethic, fairness, all the typical things that you would think of. And later that afternoon or evening, probably having a cocktail with Renata or Marilyn or somebody, you know, I just started reflecting on this a little bit, and they left out a couple of things that I think are really important. One is willing to be a lone voice. And I found this about myself a lot of times, that sometimes I'm the only one thinking some way or saying something. And it turns out other people in the room usually agree, but are too afraid to say something, or, you know, I find that out later. And I just think that, to me, a leader is somebody who is willing to be a lone voice at times. And I think about our government the last couple of years, and the people who are willing to stand up for what they believe in. And I think that's really important. And the second thing that was not mentioned on the list is unselfishness. And I think a couple of people alluded to this. You know, are you going to write your own paper, or are you going to edit one of your junior faculty's grants that day? You know, we only have so many hours in the day. And if you're going to be a leader, sometimes that means you're going to have to give up things for your people, for your division faculty or your department faculty. And that unselfishness is really an important quality as well. So I'll end there.